Hey ladies and gentlemen, Steven here from Redolessence, and welcome back to another video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I hope that this video finds you well. And in today's episode, I'm going to be letting you know if I find Spicebomb Eau De Toilette by Viktor Rolf to still be worth it in the year 2020. So make sure to stay tuned. Now, before I begin this video and I tell you if I consider Spicebomb Eau De Toilette by Viktor Rolf to still be worth it in the year 2020, I do want to say that if you like fragrance-related content, if you like videos and series just like this, but also reviews, top 10s, giveaways, unboxings, interviews, and pretty much anything having to do with fragrances, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner. And of course, while you're at it, please be sure to enable notifications by clicking on that bell. This way, whenever I do upload these videos, they will get delivered straight to your feed. So, Spicebomb Eau De Toilette, I remember purchasing this fragrance right when it came out several years ago. This is one of my favorite fragrances of all time, and I've actually done a series of different fragrances and videos on my channel in the past. I did one on Versace Eros Eau De Toilette. I also did one on Dior Sauvage Eau De Toilette, and I told you whether or not I find those fragrances to still be worth it in 2020. And what I do is I use a series of metrics and guidelines and criteria, if you will, to try to see, given these metrics, is this fragrance still worth it in 2020? So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. The first category that I'm looking at is uniqueness. Is this fragrance still unique in 2020? And we've seen, of course, this has spawned several iterations of various flankers, and of course I'm going to weigh it out against its flankers if I find this to be better smelling, to my nose at least, in comparison to like Spicebomb Night Vision Eau De Parfums, Spicebomb Extreme. With all of these flankers given consideration to them, do I think that this one is still better? So my personal opinion is this is my favorite. I think that if there's any one fragrance that I feel like could rival this, it would be Spicebomb Extreme. However, with Night Vision, I found that one to be a little bit too similar to Invictus Aqua, so I wasn't really crazy about that one. Spicebomb Night Vision Eau De Parfum, I found that one to be quite similar to Azzaro's Wanted by Night, and so that kind of utilized the DNA that I was already familiar with. But in terms of putting something on the market that really shook things up, I find that the original Spicebomb was really where it was at, and this is actually my favorite from all of the flankers, and I always prefer to wear the original. So in terms of uniqueness, yes, I do find it to be unique. I know Rayanne Tradition has done a fragrance called Insurrection Dark, if I'm not mistaken, but I know they have their own version of Spicebomb, and that one didn't last a very long time on my skin. They got it kind of close, but I feel like there's still a little bit more complexity in this fragrance, and this one is a little bit more multi-dimensional and multifaceted, as opposed to the Rayanne Tradition fragrance, which came across a little bit more compressed. Of course, with Initio Parfum Privé, we also have Rehab, which I think is a fantastic fragrance, but again, it's not totally identical. And then you have some other fragrances like 1899 Hemingway by Histoire de Parfum, which a lot of people have said is a niche version of this fragrance, but it's also much more expensive. So in terms of uniqueness, I think that this fragrance does earn some points, and despite the fact that we are in 2020 and this came out several years ago, I still find the smell to be quite unique, despite the fact that I think a lot of other people are enjoying wearing this one. But I don't think that in terms of the mass wearing it, it's being worn as much as like a Versace Eros or a Dior Sauvage or something like that. So it still has a little bit of obscurity, which I think works in the fragrance's favor. So the second category that I took a look at is alternatives. So in terms of alternatives, I'm also thinking of, has this DNA been re-engineered by another fragrance in recent years that I feel like has done it better? And on the designer side, while there have been several expressions of Invictus Aqua, for example, right? Davidoff has their own version of Invictus Aqua. Jimmy Choo has their own version of Invictus Aqua. I feel like Yves Saint Laurent even has their own version of Invictus Aqua within the Y line. but I don't feel like other designers have tried to put out their version of Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf. So funny enough, I still find this one to be quite unique, and being that it is found discounted online, I don't think it would make sense for a clone company to come and release their own version of Spicebomb by Viktor Rolf, because to be honest with you, I don't think that it would be that much cheaper where I would recommend or suggest buying the clone or the inspired expression over the original. So for that reason, I do actually find this one to still be not only unique, but for it to be the best of any possible alternatives that could be out there on the market. The next category that I want to focus on is reformulations. And a lot of times you hear about reformulations on the market, and a lot of people get discouraged when it comes to purchasing a 2019 batch or a 2020 batch because it's a little bit more recent and they fear that the performance is not going to be there. I have made several trips to my Macy's and Sephora where I've had the opportunity to smell some of the recent batches, and to me, still smells exactly the same. The performance is still there. And so I think in terms of reformulations, it's not one that people have complained about. I hear a lot of complaints about Angel Men by Thierry Mugler. I hear a lot of complaints about Versace Eros, but honestly, with the recent batches, I guess if you want to call it that I have smelled at my local department stores, it actually just smells the same to me and it gives me the same performance. So I'm personally not worried about any reformulations that this fragrance may have incurred. Now, in terms of price, with price being the next category on this list, I find that this fragrance can be found at a really nicely discounted price online. Of course, if you walk into a Macy's or a Nordstrom or a Dillard's or something like that, you are going to end up paying full retail. But as long as you can purchase this one online, either through Fragrance X or Max Aroma or whoever has it in stock, you will be able to find this one at a pretty good discount. And of course, if you can utilize a coupon code on top of the already discounted price, then you can get this one for a really good deal. So for something like this, I would suggest purchasing it online from a discounter, especially if you're going to get a $20, $30, $40 savings versus purchasing it in like a Macy's or something like that where you're going to end up paying MSRP. And last up, we have the Modernity. Does this fragrance still smell modern? Is this a fragrance that will be reminiscent of an older decade or an older generation? Or do I find that the smell of the fragrance still aligns with the ethos of 2020 and the modern generation? And to be honest with you, yes, I think it does. I think this fragrance still smells very modern, very contemporary. I think it still has a youthful appeal about it. It doesn't smell dated. It doesn't utilize any ingredients that are evocative of like the 70s or the 80s or the 90s. And so a lot of times when you have fragrances like those, if you were a fragrance consultant, let's say, you probably wouldn't recommend it to a 20-year-old living in 2020. So this fragrance, on the other hand, I would actually recommend. I find it to be very versatile. I find it to be very youthful smelling. I find it to be very appealing. I find it to not have been afflicted by reformulations. And in terms of alternatives, I still do find that given the price and what's on the market currently, this one is still the best of its kind. So of course, that brings me to my final verdict. Do I find Spicebomb Eau De Toilette by Viktor Rolf to still be relevant or appropriate for the year 2020? And my answer is a resounding yes. I love this fragrance. If you smell Spicebomb Eau De Toilette when you're in Macy's or at a department store or maybe a friend's house or something like that, and you like the way that it smells, pick it up. Buy it, get it. It's a fantastic fragrance. Yes, there have been several flankers released on the market, but personally, I find that a lot of those flankers, especially the night vision flankers, do things so differently from the original. They're totally different fragrances. So in terms of the original, the price that you can get this one for, the way that it still smells, it being able to sort of align or sync itself with the ethos of the modern man and of the year 2020, I definitely still find Spicebomb Eau De Toilette to be worth it in the year 2020. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really do appreciate that. These were my thoughts on whether or not I find Spicebomb Eau De Toilette by Viktor Rolf to still be worth it in the year 2020. Of course, if you have any experience with this fragrance, I would really appreciate it if you can give me your thoughts by leaving a comment down below. Also, if you are new to this channel and you took something of value from this video, please do consider supporting this channel by subscribing to it. All you have to do is click on that red button in the corner, and of course, make sure to enable notifications by clicking on the bell so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thanks again for watching. I love you all, and we'll see you in the next episode. Bye.